Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected the Gaza peace plan, which the United States backs, and the militant group Hamas has accepted. The Board of Peace, led by US President Trump, put forward the plan proposing that Israel withdraw from Gaza as Hamas disarms. But the wording is apparently not strong enough for Netanyahu.
Israel rejects the 15-point plan. I heard people say, you didn't say. We said. But here I'm saying it again. Israel rejects the 15-point plan. The IDF will not carry out any withdrawal until Hamas is disarmed. And when I say disarming Hamas, it means the heavy weapons, the less heavy weapons, and the light weapons, all the weapons. And we are talking about real disarmament, not a fictitious disarmament.
Let's get more on this from DW correspondent Tanya Kremar in Jerusalem. Tanya, Netanyahu there saying no. Why is he saying this now?
Well, it doesn't really come as a surprise, but I mean, Netanyahu didn't really comment immediately after US President Donald Trump announced this roadmap that would have seen a phased disarmament combined with a phased withdrawal of the Israeli military from Gaza. But Israeli officials had already voiced their reservations in recent weeks now. He spoke today at the beginning of the government's meeting to counter what he said was the wave of rumors about Israeli withdrawals, Israeli weakness. He was referring there to Lebanon, Iran, but also to Gaza. And there was a very strong rejection, what he said today, because, Israel is currently occupying between 60 to 70% of Gaza, and it's holding the so-called yellow line, which divides the Gaza Strip from the north to the south. And that has been important because Hamas also made their disarmament dependent on the Israeli withdrawal. And, with this no today by the Israeli Prime Minister, that seems that at least this roadmap that still also needed to be worked out, it was not really set as of yet, seems to be really put on hold for the time being. And that also means, for the people of Gaza, that this process remains stuck. It's a part of the ceasefire process that started with a ceasefire in October 2025. But Israel has continued to carry out airstrikes since then. Over 1,200 people in Gaza were killed in this period. And it also means, everything related to the situation in Gaza, the humanitarian situation, is also, dependent on these political developments. For example, the reconstruction that is part also of this plan. So for the people in Gaza, this is really bad news.
But isn't Prime Minister Netanyahu worried about angering Donald Trump, considering the US is Israel's biggest ally?
Well, I think he has to walk here a very fine line. And obviously, we don't know yet what President Trump will say now, how he will react to this latest rejection. I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu will, don't want to appear as an obstacle, but he's clearly talking to his own constituency here. He's clearly saying, and he said that also in this statement today, that Israel continues to talk to the Americans about their ideas, as he put it, and some are acceptable to Israel, some are not. But he said that Israel will stand firm, making a point that it's Israel who will make these decisions. At the same time, he is in a tough spot, between, the upcoming elections soon, but he always has held this stance, but at the same time not to anger President Trump. We will have to wait and see what he has to say about that.
That's interesting. I mean, the election's coming up. You're saying that he's playing into that thought of the constituents. I'm just wondering if that's sort of top of the line for him, for Netanyahu. Is that something that, I guess, shapes the way he frames everything he does right now?
Well, I mean, he has always held this hard line. And, I think there's a consensus when it comes to Gaza. that within the government, but even within most of the opposition, that there shouldn't be any concessions given to Gaza, or in this case to Hamas. He was criticized, Netanyahu, because he has always, one of his stated war goals was to remove Hamas from power. He didn't succeed in that. Hamas is still controlling its parts of Gaza, but certainly everything right now is seen through the lens of the upcoming elections. And I think he wants to make a point that he is in charge. But obviously there's also some skepticism here in Israel among people here saying, how he will navigate this with the US President Trump, and how much he can actually go against him.
Okay. Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem, thank you for your reporting. And joining me now is Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, a physician, former Palestinian Information Minister and Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative, which presents itself as a democratic alternative to both Fatah and Hamas. Dr. Barghouti, it's good to have you with us. Welcome to DW News. What's your reaction to this news?
Well, it's expected. We did expect it because Netanyahu never respected any agreement. As a matter of fact, he did not respect the first phase of this agreement, which he accepted and signed before. He did not stop the bombardment of Gaza, as your reporter said. He never allowed humanitarian aid into Gaza, as he should have. He never allowed freedom of movement through Rafah. And he never allowed the peacekeeping force to get into Gaza. And he did not allow the National Committee, which should take over the governance of Gaza from Hamas. He never allowed them to come to Gaza. So he violated all these issues. And now he's declaring bluntly and in the most horrible way that he's rejecting the whole peace plan that President Trump accepted and actually was proud about. And he mentioned it as one of his achievements. Now he's rejecting it, and that shows you that he's putting President Trump in front of a challenge. So will the administration in the United States respond now or not? It is now the duty of President Trump, in my opinion, to force Netanyahu to accept the agreement. If he doesn't, he will provide Israel with yet another a chance of total impunity, not only in front of international law, which Israel keeps violating, but also in front even of the agreement that Netanyahu and his government has already signed. So this is very serious. And let me add to that Netanyahu also challenged all the countries of the world, especially Western European countries, who keep talking about two-state solution by declaring in the same statement that he will never allow a Palestinian state, not in Gaza, not in the West Bank, not anywhere in Palestine. And that also puts the whole international community in front of a challenge. Will they keep just issuing statements, or will they take sanction activities and sanction actions against Israel's violation of international law and UN resolutions?
And I'm just wondering about the Gazans. How will they take this?
Well, of course, in a very negative way. The situation in Gaza is horrible. I've just been receiving reports as a medical doctor from Gaza of no less than 60,000 cases of chickenpox now spreading all over Gaza, especially affecting young children and especially infants who still have no ability to resist the disease. And that is causing death, causing problems. We've already had 73,000 cases of infectious hepatitis because of lack of clean water. There are 20,000 people who could die simply because there is no treatment for them, whether we are talking about seriously injured people or people who have cancer or strong or difficult chronic diseases. So the situation is horrible. And we also began receiving reports from UN organizations that there is a beginning of starvation in Gaza. So yes, of course, the situation is horrible. Don't forget that 82% of all homes in Gaza are destroyed. And according to the most recent report of United Nations, 9% of The homes in Gaza were destroyed since the ceasefire agreement was declared. So it's continuous suffering, horrible situation, and it requires immediate attention and intervention by serious pressure on Israel to stop this terrible genocide.
Just recently, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump met in Washington, I guess on the sidelines of Lindsey Graham's funeral. Just in light of that, do you think, you said that you were not surprised by Netanyahu's action now, but do you think Donald Trump would be surprised? How do you think he'll react to this?
We'll see. We can't anticipate what he will do, but he's really in front of a very big challenge here, because from one side, he's loyal to Israel. We know that. We know he has supported Netanyahu all the way during this terrible war. But on the other hand, this puts the reputation not only of President Trump, but the whole so-called board of peace at stake. It means Netanyahu does turn his back to all of them. Not just Trump, all these countries that have contributed to the so-called board of peace. So yes, it's a big challenge. And the only thing, to save his reputation, the only thing that President Trump could do is to immediately pressure Netanyahu to retreat. I am not sure he will do that. And if he doesn't, it will be yet another decline of President Trump.
Right. Donald Trump's plan calls for a gradual Israeli withdrawal from Gaza as Hamas gradually disarms. And Netanyahu insists on a full, what he calls genuine disarmament first before withdrawal. Just wondering, given the events of October 7, is that not a reasonable position to hold?
No, of course not. Why nobody talks about disarming Israel on the borders, at least with Gaza? Why it is only Palestinians who have to disarm, while Israel is the one that has killed and injured 250,000 Palestinians in Gaza, 12% of the population. Apply it to any country. Apply it to the United States. You would be talking about 36 million people killed or injured if you use the same ratio. So all the blame is on the Palestinian side. Nobody is blaming Israel for occupying West Bank and Gaza for more than 57 years. Nobody is blaming Israel for conducting ethnic cleansing in 1948, displacing 70% of the Palestinian population. As a matter of fact, the most recent statements of Netanyahu mean one thing, is that Israel and the Israeli government has only one plan, which was declared openly and clearly by the Minister of Army in Israel, Mr. Katz, which is that their main goal is ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and they will not stop. So what they have declared is continuous war till they achieve ethnic cleansing. Of course, they are unable to achieve it so far because of the steadfastness of Palestinians. But this is risky. We could see 500,000 people killed or injured if this continues.
But what would a genuine disarmament look like for Hamas? I'm just wondering if you think they're genuinely ready to disarm.
Yes, they are, and that's what they declared. That's why they agreed with this agreement. They didn't depart from the proposals of Mr. Trump, of President Trump. So how could you blame them if they are ready to give up their governance, if they are ready to transfer powers, if they are ready to disarm, if they are ready to... but also they are requiring the implementation of the other parts of the agreement, which includes Israeli withdrawal. Why should the Israeli army stay inside Gaza? Why should the Israeli army stay there destroying more houses and depriving people of clean water, depriving people of humanitarian assistance? I think anybody who believes in humanity should demand that the Israeli army should withdraw to the borders. And maybe they should disarm around the borders because we have no protection from their bombardment. And by the way, not only in Gaza, but also here in the West Bank, where we are subjected to 30 attacks by Israeli terrorist settlers who are armed by the Israeli army, attacking civilian population which has no arms to defend itself. In the West Bank, there is no Hamas, there are no arms, and yet we are attacked every day 30 times by the Israeli terrorist gangs, protected by the Israeli army. We are subjected to Israeli army invasion every day. Who's going to protect us? Where is international law?
Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, thank you very much for giving us your thoughts on this.
Thank you.